Week 8 in the NFL is here. Used to be the official halfway point of the season. Now with a few extra weeks, we're right there. But it's pretty crazy that this weekend coming up is Week 8 already. November will be the next time we have some NFL football. Or sorry, you got the Halloween game the 31st, but then that next upcoming Sunday, the second, the third, whatever it is. But it's crazy how quick the season's going. All the leaves are changing colors. The more I drive, the more I see them falling. But it's weird here in the Philly area. It's been in the 70s all week. Doesn't really feel like football weather, but I think we're supposed to be starting to get there soon. But teams are starting to separate. Teams are starting to collapse, and we're starting to get a better picture of who's who in the NFL. Our picks are getting better week by week as we continue to get some more data. We're coming off a pretty strong week, but welcome back, Kev. Week 8 is here, and how are we?
Yeah, great. Like you said, I think we're both starting to see the board a little bit better, a little more info on each team, know what's going on in the league, and I think it's reflected in our picks.
Yeah, coming off, I think our best culmination of a week, definitely your best week of the season. I think I had a similar record the 1 week, but this week I'm right around 500, 10-8 overall, 3-2 straight up, 3-2 against the spread, 1-4 on the over/under. Has been struggling on totals this year. Went 1-0 with my lock of the week. Eagles' first drive being a punt at plus 115. That one cashed. And 1-0 on my dog of the week with the Lions at plus 2. They win outright. And then 1-0 on my touchdown score. Kareem Hunt finds his way into the end zone. You go 12-6, your best of the season. 4-1 straight up, 3-2 against the spread. 4-1 on your totals. 0-1 on your lock was Titans plus 9, I believe. Looked pretty good early, but Bills do what the Bills do and are able to kind of flip that switch. 1-0 on your dog was the Chiefs. That was kind of a disrespectful line to have the Chiefs as an underdog, as I said, with the Lions as well. So we both cash on the dog. And then 0-1 on your touchdown with Devontae. We will look to cash our touchdown parlay this week. But we start out in Cincinnati. This was supposed to be a 4:25 game. Got flexed to the 1 o'clock window. NFL's probably kicking themselves after the game that they flexed to 4:25 was going to be Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams. We'll talk about that game in a little bit. But Jaden Daniels might be out in that one. But you got the 4-2 Eagles coming off a big-time win, 28-3 against the Giants, traveling to Cincy to play the 3-4 Bengals, doing what the Bengals do, dig themselves in an early hole, and then try and get out of it for the rest of the season. 1 o'clock kick on CBS. Bengals, 2.5-point favorite here at home. Over-under is 47.5.
Yeah, I'm going Eagles winning a close one, 24-20. So the Eagles cover the plus 2.5, under 47.5. The Eagles finally played somewhat of a complete game last week against the Giants. I do say somewhat because the offense still does look clunky at times. They seem to be relying on a deep ball to AJ or a huge Saquon run instead of being able to consistently string positive plays together on long drives. But that being said, it was a big step in the right direction, and the defense looks like it's starting to figure things out as well. The last 2 games, the defense has been great, but it's been against the Browns and Giants. And it's funny enough, the Bengals' last 2 games were also against the Browns and Giants, and they kind of used those 2 games as a get-right game. So I think we'll kind of find out this week for both teams if they are really figuring things out or if it really is just they were playing the Browns and the Giants. I am going with the Eagles, though, because I think their offensive line and Saquon can continue to control the game here. The Bengals rank 30th in opponents' rush EPA and dead last in opponent rush success rate. And then the defense for the Eagles can continue to develop, and I think they can do enough to limit Joe Burrow in this one.
I think the Eagles are about to go on a run. That win over the Giants was as good of a win and as good as we've seen them play in for well over a year now. And while it was against the Giants, as you talked about, the previous win coming against the Browns, last week was just like the first time that it was never in doubt. I texted some people after the game. The least stressed I had been watching an Eagles game in probably over a year. And they look to just be out there kind of enjoying it and playing out there, playing for each other, playing for Saquon. And it was just an overall team win. And they kind of got that vibe going back to them that, all right, this might be the Eagles that we expected, the Eagles that we've seen in the past. And they could be gearing up for a run. And I think this would be a huge momentum builder and momentum booster going to Cincinnati and beating this kind of surging Bengals team as well. The defense has really been improving, and they face a Bengals offensive line that has allowed 18 sacks this year. That's 13th most in the league. And it looks like they're going to be without Orlando Brown Jr. at tackle. Eagles just exposed a really bad Giants offensive line this past week. And the Eagles defense has not allowed a touchdown in 2 straight games. So they've been getting better and better under Vic Fangio. Looks like they're starting to establish an identity as a run-first team on the offensive side of the ball. And then, as you touched on, hit AJ for some big plays when they need to. Eagles are 15-2 since 2022 when they acquired AJ Brown when he scores a touchdown. Pretty insane kind of correlation there. But I think the Eagles, like I said, are about to go on a run. I think they're hot. I think they got some juice, some momentum to them. I'm going to have them going to Cincy and making a statement win and be kind of the talk of the town come Monday morning. Give me Eagles 27, Bengals 23, Eagles plus 2.5, and the over a 47.5 hit in there. All right, we go down to Tampa Bay now, where the 4-3 Falcons travel to the 4-3 Bucks for a 1 o'clock kick on Fox. These two teams just played in a thriller on Thursday Night Football just a couple weeks ago. Falcons are a 2.5-point favorite over under 46. You think the Bucks get their revenge at home in this one, Kev?
I don't think so. I don't see it. I see the Falcons winning by 10, 27-17. So they cover the 2.5 and under 46. Like you mentioned, the Falcons won miraculously in OT when they played just a few weeks ago. And then in that game, Kirk Cousins threw the ball 58 times, which is crazy high. I don't think that's a formula for success in this one, but he did end up throwing for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think he can have a great day here. I don't think he needs to throw the ball 58 times, hand the ball off to Bijan a lot more. But I continue to back the Falcons, maybe foolishly, and I really do like Baker, but if Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were healthy, I think I might be taking the Bucks here. But with those two out, I just don't see Baker being good enough by himself to make up for their absence. And then the Falcons defense is not great. But again, without Evans and Godwin, I just don't see Baker being able to match Kirk and the Falcons offense with all the weapons they have.
Yeah, my Bucks hype that I've came on the show the past couple of weeks might have to die down a little bit. Whenever a player is ruled out with a hamstring injury right away, that usually means, a pretty decent chunk of time. And the Bucks said today that he's probably not going to be ready to come back to week 12. And that's a shame because I think Mike Evans is the most underrated receiver in my lifetime. And it's weird to say that because when it's all said and done, I think there's a good chance that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I feel like he's never been discussed in that top 5 receivers when he's been in the league. And he's had 1,000 yards in every season. And it's a real shame that he's probably going to have an uphill climb to get that this year due to this hamstring injury. And now it's a short week as well, so you're going to be without him. You're obviously without Godwin now with the ankle injury. It's going to be hard to win this game even at home. I think they're going to struggle to move the ball. Falcons laid a real dud last week. They're the ultimate kind of boomer bust team where it wouldn't surprise me if we saw them in the NFC Championship game at the end of the year, or if we see them lose in the wild card round to an underachieving regular season team if they win the NFC South. We talked about last week how it was like a fork in the road game for Seattle last week, and it was impressive for Seattle to go down to Atlanta, cross country, 1 o'clock game, and win that game. Falcons kind of had everything going for them. But this is a big game here in the division and a good chance for them to bounce back against a Bucs team that has to be feeling kind of sorry going into this one, missing their top 2 offensive players. I think the Falcons win this one, gives them a real leg up on the Bucs going forward in the division with a 2-0 record against them in the regular season. The Bucs had all their weapons. I would probably be taking them at home. They arguably outplayed the Falcons in that Thursday night game in Atlanta, but just too many things going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. So I'm going to go with the Falcons here, 27-14, Falcons minus 2.5 and under 46. Third game of the week, team that we just briefly mentioned with the Seahawks at 4-3. They host the 5-2 Bills, a 4:05 kick on Fox. Bills are a 3-point favorite on the road here. Over under is 48.5.
Yeah, I'm going Bills covering with a final score of 27-21, under 48.5. I'm a Bills believer and also a Seahawks hater. Gino looked really good last week against the Falcons, but I can't trust him week to week. Their defense is also not great, ranking in the bottom half of the league in points per game. yards per game, yards per play, third down percentage, and turnovers, while the Bills' offense is top 10 in points per game, red zone percentage, turnovers, and sacks allowed. And I think with Amari Cooper getting a full week of practice here, I think the offense can have a good day against the Seattle defense. And again, with Geno, I don't know who is going to be showing up, but I'll bet on the Bills defense that they've been pretty solid this year, even though they haven't been stellar, and I'm going to ride with the Bills.
I think this is a game that's a tough spot for the Bills. Traveling cross country, they're kind of in that position this week. And we talked about it last with the Falcons Seahawks game. It was a fork in the road game for the Seahawks, and they chose the right path. They took down a solid Falcons team, and I think that's a game that when you go to a division leader like the Falcons, cross country, 1:00 game, really everything against you, and you find a way to go down there and not just win, but win pretty handily. That's something that builds up some momentum for a team that started out 3-0, lost 3 in a row. Now they might be gaining some juice and some steam again. Can they continue that momentum against a Bills team that is traveling across the country themselves now? I think they can. I think it's a good spot. As much as we talk about Lamar Jackson, though, being so dominant against the NFC, Josh Allen's pretty damn good as well. He's 20-6 in his career against NFC opponents. And I still think one of the most surprising things in the entire NFL this year is that Josh Allen still has 0 interceptions. We've talked time and time again how the interceptions and the turnovers have always plagued him. For him to have 0 interceptions and leading a team to a 5-2 record so far early in the season, that's very impressive for him to do so. Hats off to him. But I do think we could be due for a bit of a regression, a comeback to the mean type of game from Josh, a type of game that we've seen from him in the past where might try to play a little bit too much superhero ball and has a few turnovers. So that's why I'm going to pick the Seahawks on this one. Seahawks picked off Kirk twice last week. I think Allen could be due for one of those old Josh Allen games and a tough spot traveling to Seattle. That's probably one of the 5 most feared environments in all of the NFL. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks, pull off the outright upset here in a lower scoring, ugly game. I'm going to go Seahawks 21, Bills 17, Seahawks +3 and under 48.5. All right, we go to the 425 slot on CBS. We talked about this game earlier. Flexed from 1 to 425. The NFL was hoping that it would be number 1 pick Caleb Williams and the 4-2 Bears at the 5-2 Commanders with number 2 pick Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is ruled week to week with a rib injury, so remains to be seen if he'll play. I think anytime a guy is week to week, it's more likely that he's going to be missing that first game than not. But we'll see what happens. Long week to go. Bears a 2.5-point favorite. Over under is 46.5. Kev, do you think the Bears can go to DC off the bye and get this win?
Yeah, I think they do, and I think they do pretty comfortably, winning 30-17. So Bears -2.5, over 46.5. As you were talking about earlier with Jaden Daniels' injury, if I had to bet, I would say he's not going to play on Sunday. And if he does not, that means it'll be Marcus Mariota for a full game in Landover. Mariota did look great when he came in last week, going 18-23 for 205 yards and 2 touchdowns. But he did come into the game with the Commanders already up 10-0, and it was also against the Panthers. The Bears defense ranks in the top 5, allowing only 292 total yards a game and under 17 points. Just a completely different animal than the Panthers. And then I think the Commanders' defense is also not great, struggling in the red zone and on third downs. Caleb Williams has started looking a lot better with a passer rating over 106 in his last 3 games. It's unfortunate we probably won't see the number 1 versus number 2 pick, but I think the Bears are the better team here, and Caleb has been playing pretty well as of late.
Yeah, the biggest thing I think when you take this game into consideration, for sure, is whether or not Jaden Daniels is going to be playing. And as we both have said, kind of, I would lean to the side of no. Commanders, I think, have built themselves a decent cushion starting out at 5-2, where it's not like if Daniels doesn't play that the season is over. They could afford to lose a couple games, and I'm not sure who they have up next, but if Daniels just say is forced to miss the next 2 and Mariota is able to split, I think they would definitely take that. But Mariota did look impressive in relief, and Cliff Kingsbury continues to work wonders with this offense. So I wouldn't completely rule it out of him having some more success. But I think more times than not, when we see a player go into the game in backup relief action, like during the second quarter, during the third quarter or whatever, he tends to play better than when he has like the full week of preparation, because on the other hand, you can look at it as the defense has a full week of preparation, and you're usually a backup for a reason, and you're going to get exposed at some point. And I think you have a Bears team that has a very good defense coming off a bye. I'd probably bet on more so the Bears coming out hot, continuing some of that momentum that they were building before their bye, and having a few tricks up their sleeves for Marcus Mariota and this offense, if that is the case, and he is starting. Caleb has gotten better and better as the season has gone on. Over the 3-game win streak, he has 687 passing yards, 7 passing touchdowns, and only 1 interception, 3-0 during that stretch. So he's looked better and better. He's looking more confident. A bye week 2 to kind of evaluate and go over what was going wrong earlier in the year, what's going better now. I think the Bears are a team that's in position to potentially go on a run and be a playoff team themselves. It's a shame that we're not going to see Caleb and Jaden go back and forth most likely in this one. But regardless, I'd still pick the Bears to win. So I'm going to ride with them here, 24-10, Bears minus 2.5 in the under of 46.5. All right, final game of the week. We go to Sunday Night Football. NFC East, third place team right now, Dallas Cowboys at 3-3 at the 49ers. Off to a very disappointing 3-4, have been marred by injuries, obviously. 8:28 p.m. on Sunday Night Football on NBC. Niners 5.5-point favorite. Over under is 47.5. You surprised to see the number that big with all the injuries on the Niners side?
Yeah, I am, and that's why I'm taking the Cowboys to cover. I'm going Niners 24, Cowboys 21, so Cowboys plus 5.5, under 47.5. When this game was scheduled for Sunday Night Football, this is definitely not the matchup the NFL had in mind. And I also struggled with this game a lot. Not really sure who to pick here. I am going to go with the Niners because they're at home and they seem to have a little more competency to them as of recent. But Brock Purdy obviously needs to take care of the ball, throwing a ton of picks last week. And the injuries are just starting to pile up for the Niners. Now Ayuk is out for the year. I do think Debo and Kittle should be healthy, or at least healthy enough to play this week. And then I also do believe Kyle Shanahan can come up with a game plan in the running game that can take advantage of a Cowboys defense that has been really bad against the run, and they're also letting up 28 points a game, which is second worst in the NFL behind the Panthers. It could be massive for the Cowboys to get Micah Parsons back, and that would obviously be a big help for them there, but I think I'm just going to end up going with the Niners here at home.
I'm going to go with the upset here. I'm going to go with a little bit of chaos and take the Cowboys. We have seen recently what Purdy's been looking like without his weapons, and I think that kind of goes to show you that no player really is completely system-proof. Like they still need the players, no matter how good the scheme is, no matter how good the coaching is. These quarterbacks still need some players to throw to. I mean, look, we even saw Herbert last night throw for nearly 350 yards, but no touchdowns. He's throwing to guys like Jalen Reagor, and he's throwing a great pass down the field, and Rager's fumbling the ball at the 1-yard line. Like, you need some talent around you, and Brock Purdy has shown when he has the talent around him, he's been a pretty damn good quarterback. But without him, he's without those guys, he struggled a little bit, and we've seen that in the early goings. Ayuk out for the season, ACL. Debo just got released from the hospital with pneumonia today. I don't know if I've ever heard an NFL player have that. Christian McCaffrey with the calf that we've seen him linger all year. George Kittle sprained foot now. The list goes on and on for the 49ers. I saw a tweet and, I chuckled a little bit at it. Scary situation, but it was like Ricky Pearsall is now the most healthy receiver on the 49ers, and he was shot 2 months ago. Like, that goes to show you how crazy the injuries have been in the early goings for the 49ers. So the Cowboys can't come out and have a strong defensive outing this week and be that unit that forced all those turnovers last year. It was a super opportunistic group. Will they ever? They're coming off a bye as well, banged up 49ers squad. It could be, I'm not saying a get-right game, but a chance for them to come out and right the ship a little bit and maybe get some momentum going back on their side. And I agree with you, Kevin. When you look at this game at the beginning of the year, it's one of the games that's probably one of the 5 most viewed games in the entire NFL slate. But the Cowboys, I think that going through these injury woes with the 49ers, I think that they're going to be able to expose that a little bit. I'm going to choose some chaos and have Dallas go to San Fran and win this week. 49ers fall to 3-5. And they're going to have to dig themselves out of a pretty deep hole at that point. But I'm going to go Cowboys 20, Niners 17, Cowboys plus 5.5 and under 47.5. All right, we move to our final three picks of the week, our lock of the week, our dog of the day, and our touchdown score. Touchdown scores are only recording this Tuesday night. Those odds aren't out yet. We'll update that later in the week, but we'll start it out with the lock of the week. I'm going to go with a different angle this week, a curveball. I'm going to go with a 10-point three-leg teaser. That's at minus 120. It is the Eagles plus 12.5 against the Bengals, Raiders plus 20 against the Chiefs, and Lions minus 1 hosting the Titans. So Lions need to win by 2 points. Raiders cover 19 and the Eagles to cover 12. I like my chances with that at minus 120 there.
Yeah, my lock of the week, I'm going Ravens minus 9.5 versus the Browns. It's minus 110. The Ravens are potentially the best team in football, and the Browns season is essentially over. So give me Ravens minus 9.5.
All right, my dog of the day. It is one of the legs from the teaser, but back down to the original spread. My dog of the day, I'm going to go with the Raiders plus 10 against the Kansas City Chiefs. 4 of the Chiefs' 6 wins this year have come by less than 10 points. And when you go back to last season, including the playoffs, where they weren't really playing that great in the regular season, they just got into the dance and obviously made a run. But including the playoffs last year, 5 of their last 6 wins came by less than 10 points. And the game before that, their last win under 10 points, the Raiders beat them 20-14 outright on Christmas last year, one of the more shocking games. Division game, rivalry game. I think the Raiders, despite all their obvious flaws, are able to kind of keep it close and muck it up a little bit. So give me Raiders plus 10 as my dog of the day.
My dog of the day, I'm doubling down on one we already talked about. I'm going Eagles plus 2.5 or plus 128 on the money line against the Bengals. I don't love a ton of the underdogs this week. We already talked about this one, and I think the Eagles stick to running the ball, and the Bengals can't stop it.
All right, and our touchdown scorer of the week, I'll go to the Eagles game as well. I'll go with A.J. Brown. He's scored in all 3 games that he's played this season. The Eagles certainly look like a different offense with him in the fold. I think it's time to start having a conversation about him being the best receiver in the entire NFL. That stat I said earlier about him, 15-2, when he scores a touchdown is the Eagles record is pretty insane to me. Maybe not the best receiver, but I think the most valuable and brings the most to a team. So give me A.J. Brown this week, touchdown score against the Bengals. I think he's able to keep it going and gets that secondary.
Yeah, my TD score, I'm going Mark Andrews. Lamar has found him for a TD in 2 straight games now, getting 2 this past week, and he seems to be returning to his form from previous years as he was coming back from that gruesome leg injury last year.
All right, well, that will do it for Week 8. As we say, hard to believe it, but Week 8 show already in the books. We will be back next week before we head down to Knoxville, Tennessee, where we'll be taking in some SEC football and some NFL football down there. But as always, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and we'll talk next week.